Hey guys, this is Sydnee A. I am your host for Necro-Fiends of the Frozen Dead, where we are celebrating 25 years of the Frozen Dead and Johnny Necro. Now, to borrow a phrase from the Morbid podcast, which is one of my favorite podcasts, you guys, you got to hold on to your butts for tonight's guest. I am so super excited to welcome C Ernst Harth. And if you guys there's no way that you have not seen this man. He has done so many movies. He has had so many roles, and I am super duper excited to talk to him. So welcome, Ernst. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on here. This is so exciting. And I love that we have our friend Johnny in common. So I have to know how you guys met up, how you got to know each other.
Yeah, well, I like to stay on top of things. So I'm always searching through social media. I'm looking at fan art. I'm looking at different things regarding the films I've worked on. I like to post on people's pages. If somebody posts something of one of my characters, I like to, throw a hello or a hi or a nice work or what have you. I just like to let people know I'm lurking out there. So you better keep all your comments nice, because I'll be reading them.
Because you're watching.
So I came across some artwork. One of Johnny's, the Horror-Adorable characters that he has done. It was for 13 Ghosts for the Great Child, and I was so impressed with it. I sent him an email and told him that nice work. I really like that. And then he was inspired to do another one of my characters, and he did a Horror-Adorables cartoon of Miner 49er from Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed. And I was so impressed with his work, I said to him, I would love to get a shirt that has your two images on it. And if I have to make public appearances, whatever, I'd love to wear the shirt and represent your artwork. And maybe it can bring, people to your page and to your artwork. And so he sent me a shirt, and I liked the shirt so much that I said to him, okay, now can you switch the images around and put the image that was on the front on the back and put the one on the that's what I'm wearing right now. I have the front here has
my Miner
49er, and behind me is the Great Child, but I'm in my underwear, so I won't be standing up to model that for you.
Well, people know this isn't a PG show, so it's
plus, if
you feel inspired.
If you've seen 13 Ghosts, you've already seen me in my underwear anyways. Yeah, and 200 pounds heavier, so there you go. You saw more of me than you'll get to see of me now. But yeah, so I just was so impressed with his artwork. That's how we got in touch, and I started reading through his comics and started posting, sharing links to his stuff on my page. And then he was nice enough to offer me a guest starring role in his latest in his latest graphic novel. And I jumped at that because his artwork is so good as it is, and then to actually be a part of the comic, and then on top of that, he even let me write my own like
your storyline.
Well, he had the storyline, but he says, okay, this is what happens in this situation. There you go. Even looks like he's even wearing the shirt that I'm wearing.
I was going to say, you guys are wearing the same shirt.
He said, this is the situation. What would you say in response? And so I basically wrote my part to be what I would say. So that was so nice of him to include me in that. And I've been very appreciative. His work I was talking to him earlier today, chatting with him online, and saying, I was commenting on I've lost sight of how many roles I've done. And I said, it must be the same with him. Over 25 years, you lose sight of how much actual work you've done, how many cartoon strips, how many characters, all the horror door, all that stuff, because he's always doing something.
He's the busiest person I know.
And you like they always say, find what you love, and then you'll never work a day in your life because, and it's the same thing with his drawing. It's the same thing with my acting. You lose sight. The last week I've been accumulating all my characters and putting together in a photo album on my Facebook page. And I think I'm over 60 now, and I still have dozens of roles to go. But it's just also when you have a bit of a downturn in things and you haven't worked in a while, I tend to, I was just thinking about this today. I tend to start doing these kind of projects almost like, instead of getting depressed, I throw myself into my past work, and then it pumps me up. It's like, oh, no, I'm not as lousy as I thought I was. I've done all this work. People do love me.
Oh my gosh, they absolutely do.
That's
and I was going to throw up not throw up. I was going to put your IMDb on the screen for people to follow because, as I said in the intro, you have done so many roles. And as you mentioned, you've been putting them up on your Facebook. So I took it upon myself to go steal some of your posts. And I put them in this little collage that I'm going to show to everybody. But I'm being serious. If you have epileptic issues, it's really quick moving. It's not flashing, but it might be triggering. So it's only 20 seconds. If you have a problem, come back and see us in 20 seconds. But so many awesome roles you have done. And this is just like a smidge. So let's check this out.
Oh, hey, whoa, look at me. Whoa, hey, whoa, look at they. Whoa, they.
There's cartoons, there's real life, there's everything.
I see me at 500 pounds. I see me at 400 pounds. I see me at 300 pounds. Boy, you start spreading out.
Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah,
I saw Kermit.
You spread out 35 years of your career. You get to see all the sizes you've been.
Yeah, well.
I've always been a big guy. My wife always jokes with me. She's like, "You're never going to be small. You're always going to be the biggest guy in the room. It doesn't matter what size you are. You're 6'6" and over 300 pounds." So, like on 13 Ghosts, I was 598 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
And I joke always with people. I say that I lost 200 pounds. And the first job I got hired on was Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. And the first thing they told me was they were going to have to build me a fat suit. So
I saw you talking about the Velcro belly. Like,
oh my Lord.
That's
yes.
so cool. Like the special effects. I rented it last night.
It was 6 hours, just over 6 hours of makeup. And that was, the face was different application, different pieces. And then I had the mustache, then I had the beard, then I had the big long wig and the hair. Then I had hands that went over top of these hands. Then I had the arms and every part of me had something on it. And then there was about 2 hours worth of wardrobe to get into because, first of all, like I said, I had the fat suit, but under the fat suit, I had a cooling suit, which is what the soldiers like in Kuwait and stuff wear. And it runs ice cold water through these channels underneath everything to keep you cool.
So you don't pass out.
Which, in the concept makes sense. But the problem is within a couple hours, the thing has petered out and now it's just pumping wet, piss warm water around and just making you more uncomfortable. So I have that. Then I have the fat suit. Then I have the first layer of clothes. The pants that I had fiber optics in them so that I would look sparkly on camera. And there was a smoke machine in my pants. That's what created the smoke everywhere I went. Then I had the jacket and another jacket over that. Then I had the full-size hat that had a running lantern in it. And then I had contacts, and they were the big ones that were like this big, so they covered my whole eyeball. And my wife, who was my assistant on set, she would, get me stuff and moves things. I couldn't fit in my director's chair because the costume was so big, so I had to have 6 Apple boxes and I had to carry around these boxes and build like a little wall. It was like Humpty Dumpty. They had to build this little wall for me everywhere I went to sit down because I couldn't sit in the chairs. And don't even get me started. I couldn't even fit in the bathroom. And on top of that, it was 45. If I had to go to the washroom, it was a 45-minute shutdown. They had to shut the movie down.
Right, for your 10 layers of pants and water and everything to come down.
Get me to the point where there was enough of a release that I could go to the washroom, but then, when you go to the washroom and you can't fit in the stall, so, you got to just have good aim, and then you go back to set and you're going to lock you all back up. And so they keep, because you're hot and you're bothered, they keep feeding you water. They keep feeding you
Which
Gatorade.
Makes you have to pee.
Right. So I keep telling them no more. So they have these pepperoni sticks. They're called hot rods. They're like the what do they call them in the slim? They're like Slim Jims. And I basically just sucked on those all day because there's so much salt content in those, rather than drinking water. But yeah, so all that stuff that I mentioned was on me. And then on top of everything else, I had a air bladder stomach that made my stomach look really big and jiggly, and it had hair on it, and it was full of air, so that it jiggled, but it was about 45 pounds, and it strapped two big things that strapped to my chest, Velcro. And so now I got this thing hanging on me, and then I have a certain walk where I walk almost like I'm bow-legged, and so that was a created walk. So I was basically out of commission when I was done this because, having all this stuff on top of me and then having to keep a certain stance. And my wife, she always warns me. She always says, every time I start a new project, she says, now remember, with you and your suggestions, whenever you suggest to them, oh, what if I did this? Or what if I do this? Just remember, you're going to have to do that for the whole film. Yeah. It's like when you do a film where there's an eating scene, and, just be prepared that when you do the master, if you're eating in the master, then you better be prepared to be eating all day from every angle that they shoot that. So whenever I do any sort of scene where we're eating, as soon as we start the master shot, I'll establish that I'm just like having my last bite and I put the fork down and I'm done, because I've seen actors have to get the bucket out and have to chew all their food, and as soon as they yell cut, because you're all gung-ho and everything, and you'll eat the first couple takes, but after 6 or 7 hours of that,
you don't want to even look at that food anymore.
You don't even want to look at that food anymore. And I remember on an Outer Limits episode, it was we were at a fondue restaurant, and so all the actors were dipping bread and cheese into other kinds of cheese and eating that all day. And I was like, That's not fun. Don't. That's fork is dirty. Put it down. I'm done. I'm not eating anymore. But so she always reminds me, if you're gonna suggest something, because I'm the kind of person, what would be better is, what if I was in my underwear, or what if I was doing this, or I always think of what would be better for the role, but I always forget about the fact that I'm the one who's going to have to do it
over and over and over. Yeah, your wife is very smart. She is a smart cookie. And speaking of stealing things off of your social media, this was one of my favorite posts of yours because you were just talking about this costume. But when you said this was a fan, I think his name was Matt, I about fell out of my chair. Yeah. But that costume is incredible.
And as you can see in this picture, I forgot, I also have upper and lower teeth that are on top of my teeth. So I have minor 49er teeth, and you can see I have these big contacts. They're blue in my eyes, and in the middle, so every inch of my body is minor 49er, and then right in the middle of that, those contacts is a little pinhole where I can actually see through, because my vision, that was the other thing. Everything you see of me in the movie, I'm acting through pinholes because everything else is dark. So every time I would get ready to go to set, my wife would come over and she'd lean real close in and she'd look into those little pinholes and she says, okay, I see my husband. Go have fun.
That's so cute. I love that.
So I having worked with Matthew on 13 Ghosts and then getting to work with him again on Scooby-Doo as minor 49er, it was fun. And I said to him, I said, you still have no idea what I look like as a normal person, do you? Because every time
You're
he'd see,
always in big costumes.
well, yeah, because on 13 Ghosts, by the time he came to set, I was all painted up and I was all pukey looking. And then on this thing, by the time he came to set, I was already halfway through my Minor 49er makeup process. So, yeah, I think the only time he saw me as me was at the rap party for, was it for, it was for Scooby-Doo. And it was at a big Palladium. It was one of these like these adult arcades where they have all the games and they have like air hockey and all this stuff and a climbing wall and all. They had rented out this whole place for us. And so me and Keith, who was one of the guys on my team who was working on the costume of Minor 49er, him and I are playing air hockey. And my wife is standing next to me and she's my cheerleader and she's cheering me on and supporting me and everything. And I'm playing air hockey against him and we're right into it. And then as I'm playing, I'm feeling my wife and she's tapping on my bum and she's squeezing my bum cheeks and everything. And I'm like leaning into it because I'm like, oh, this is so cute. And then as soon as I finished the game, my wife says, why didn't you turn around? Matthew was trying to get your attention.
He was squeezing your butt.
It was him who was squeezing my bum. It was him who was patting me on the bum. And I was so into the game, I just thought it was my wife. And I was enjoying it. And then by the time I turned around, he was gone and I never seen him again the rest of the night.
So he's a good bum squeezer is what you're that's the breaking news.
Breaking news. But for me, the breaking news is like I was on a day off. I went down to when they were shooting the stuff at the museum where the evil masked figure is up on the roof of the Coolsville Museum, and he's like telling everybody that he's taken over. And so we're all watching, and Alicia Silverstone is there, and they're doing all the stuff. And I wasn't working that day, so I was just hanging out. And we went over to the director's chair by the Video Village, and they let my wife wear the headphones so she could listen to what they were shooting. And we were talking with Matthew, and Matthew, he looked at my wife and he looked at me and he says, she's a keeper. And so she's always reminding me, she goes, remember, Matthew said I'm a keeper. Don't even think of getting rid of me because I'm not getting rid of you. I'm a keeper. Yeah, she is a keeper. That's for sure. I was
going to say, I can tell exactly by the way you talk about her and the look on your face when you do how much you love her. And that is amazing. I love that. As somebody that is very happily married, I love seeing love.
On June 2nd, just last week, we celebrated 22 years of marriage. And just to go off on a slight tangent, because this is what we're talking about now, I did a movie in 2000. It's one of the pictures I posted this last couple of days with Meatloaf. It was called Blacktop. And I just had one day's work on it as the club manager. It was just in and out as a character actor. A lot of the stuff I end up doing is just a couple days here and a couple days there because it's just you just come in, you do your one big cameo, and then you leave. And I had so much fun on this film. And the problem was HBO, when we shot it, it was for HBO, and HBO wasn't in Canada yet. So I wanted to see this film, but I didn't know if I was ever going to get to see it. So I thought, well, Meatloaf, he's a pretty big name. He must have a fan club or some sort of web presence. So I found the official international Meatloaf fan club, and I went through, they had a message board, and I went through 6 months worth of messages looking for someone who posted something about this movie. And I only found 2 messages, but only one of the messages, and the messages were like, hey, Meat, saw your movie, loved it, way to go. You know, just one of those simple congratulatory messages. And of the 2, only one had left an email address, and it was a woman in Pittsburgh. And I thought, well, here we go, shot in the dark. I'm just going to send an email. I said, hi, my name is C Ernst Harth. I played the club manager in Blacktop. I saw that you left a message on Meatloaf's fan club, and I was wondering, and I'm really hoping that maybe you taped the film. And if you did tape it, I'd love to get a copy of it off you. I'll send it. I'll pay for the tape. I'll pay for the shipping. I'll pay for everything. And a couple days later, I get an email that says, yes, I did tape it. And yes, I'd love to make a copy for you. And oh my God, I'm so honored to get an email from one of the actors in the film. And she started asking questions about my career and asking me about different actors I've worked with while I was waiting for her to send this tape to me. And because actors hate talking about themselves, this went on for weeks. Right? And then I had another movie, Voyage of the Unicorn, with Beau Bridges, that was airing on a network in the States that we didn't have in Canada. So she was becoming like my surrogate taper. I was like, please, could you tape this one for me? Could you tape this for me? Because I want to see this film too. And so over the weeks, in talking and in sharing all of these actor stories, I would send her pictures from set. I'd show her different pictures of actors I've worked with, and I'd share all of these set stories and all of these stories about different things. So one morning I wake up and there's an email from her, and it says, grab yourself a coffee and then click this link. And I was intrigued. So I grabbed a coffee, I sat down, I clicked the link, and what I didn't know was that she was a web designer, worked for an internet company, and unbeknownst to me, she had taken all the stories, all the photos, everything that I had shared with her, and basically built the unofficial C Ernst Harth website. And
oh my gosh.
This woman, this person I didn't know, basically a stranger, built this. It was page after page, and it was all my TV stuff, my movie stuff, all the characters and actors and pictures I'd shared with her. I was so blown away that she had done this for me that I said to her, why don't we work together and make this the official C Ernst Harth website? And so that's what we did. We started designing the actual look of it and where things would go and what have you. And we continued to chat and continued to go back and forth. And to make a long story short, that's how I met my wife.
I knew that was the conclusion. I'm so excited.
I had said to her after months, I had said, okay, so I'm going to throw this out. We can go back and forth. We can chat and we can message. This was still when they had the AOL, instant messenger.
Yeah,
and when Napster still existed. So what we would do is I remember this one Memorial Day weekend, she sent me like 10 different songs that she likes, and I sent her 10 different songs that I like, and she went to Napster and she downloaded them, and I went to Napster and I downloaded them. And then on either end of the computer, we'd go, okay, we're going to press play on the count of 1, 3, 2, 1, press play. And so we're basically that way. For the whole weekend, had the same soundtrack, and as we were chatting, we would be listening to the same music. I was introducing her to a lot of Canadian singers that she didn't know, and also to a lot of acts that she did know but didn't know were Canadian, that she thought they were British or just an American band or what have you. And so after all of this going back and forth, I sent her an email one day and I said, okay, so we can keep doing this and keep going back and forth with everything, but the only way we're going to know if we're truly compatible for each other is if you come here this weekend. This was on a Wednesday. She's in Pittsburgh. I'm in Vancouver, another country altogether. And I just sent it. And I was like, okay, you better mean this, because that email's been sent.
Right.
And a couple of minutes goes by, I get an email that says, hi, other than air and hotel, what do I need to know? I was like, nothing. Okay, buddy, you better want this because it's happening. And the weekend came around, and unfortunately, I had plans to meet with someone already, so I couldn't meet her at the airport. So I met her at her hotel that she had gotten in Vancouver, and then we spent the entire next 5 days that she was here together, all night, all day, all night, all day. We took her to a concert and we had a great time. And then she came back here. That was in the summer. She came back here in the winter, and she decided she was going to rent a condo downtown Vancouver for a month. And instead of over the internet, we were going to really get to know each other and court and date and all the stuff you can do in person that you can't do over the internet.
Right.
But because we had spent so much time on the internet, it's like you get to know the person from the inside out.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, all the superficial stuff doesn't matter. All the appearance, all the nonsense stuff doesn't matter because it's heart to heart you're talking. And so when she came here, January 22nd, I said to her, I know you have a 6-month visitor's visa. I don't know where this is headed, but I do know that when your lease is up at the end of February, if you want to move in with me, I promise this will be the best 6 months of your life. And she said, oh my God, yes, I'd love to. So February 22nd, her lease was up. She moved into my apartment. May 19th, I got down and proposed. And June 2nd, we got married in my friend's backyard with a marriage commissioner and my friend and his wife as our witnesses. And because I wanted to get the whole immigration thing started, and I wanted, because, you know, moving from America to Canada and all that, wanted to get that ball rolling. But, you know, my wife came because I went on the internet and looked for a video, and that we've always joked, most people go on the internet looking for a wife and they find a video.
That's true.
I did it the complete other way around.
The other way. That is, I love this story.
And my mom used to always joke. She'd always say, you know, if you don't leave your apartment, you're never going to meet anyone. I was like, I didn't even leave the bedroom and I met someone. I didn't even get dressed and I met someone. And it always blows me away. Things
you're doing in your underwear. I'm noticing a theme here.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I try to get that's why I try every role that I get. I say to myself, okay, can I do this in my underwear?
Okay.
I want to be as comfortable as I can on set. So, you know, if I can wear my own clothes, I'll request that. I'll put that out there. I'll suggest that. You know,
right.
The last thing I did, the music video that was just released that I did for Melody Whore. That's the music video I just posted on my Facebook page. It was the same thing. There was no scenes of me in my underwear. And then I said, wouldn't it be cool we started it with me in my underwear? And it's like, you know, I don't know what it is. I'm comfortable in my underwear.
When you're most comfortable. That's fair.
And unfortunately, 22 years into my marriage, I'm still constantly reminded by my wife that I proposed in boxers and an undershirt. And she goes, all those nights we went for walks, and those romantic walks in the snow, and all those walks under the lights of the hotel, and all these beautiful times. She says, what's that? Yeah, she goes, we'd go for a walk and there's these beautiful fountains. And she's thinking to herself, oh, this is
going to be it.
He's going to do it.
Meanwhile, you're Captain Underpants over there. Like, I know what I'm going to do.
We had just finished watching Survivor. It was the finale. Survivor was over. I went to the washroom, and on the way back from the washroom, I just thought, I'm going to propose. And walked up to her, got down on my knee and proposed. And I haven't lived down that moment ever since.
I was going to say, you gave her a story that she can tell everyone forever. But it was really funny when I was first reaching out to you, because Johnny was like, well, he said weekends are best, but not this weekend because of anniversary. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm not going to be able to talk to him because of my anniversary, which is June 1st. And he meant your anniversary, which is June 2nd.
So basically we were doing the same thing on the same weekend.
Right, exactly. I was like, okay. So we were both like, happy anniversary, you know?
Yeah. And so, you know, I'm still constantly trying to think of, okay, at what anniversary do I repropose? Is it the 20th? Is it the 25th? Should it be I'm always trying to think of something romantic, and maybe it should just be when we go for a walk one night. But, you know, it's like, instead of trying to make it a big thing, but I don't know, I'd probably be in my underwear again anyway. So
be in your underwear, but in front of the fountain, you know, like
there you go.
It's both of what you want.
It's in front of the fountains, but in my underwear.
She's going to be like, you're not allowed to talk to Sydney anymore.
Yeah. So sorry about the tangent. Just we mentioned my wife. I just wanted to share that because, you know, I just wanted people to know that, you know, You don't have to be the social butterfly. You don't have to be out at the bars. You don't have to be going to everything. People are at home on their computers. I know a lot of people that are in these horror groups, and they have these different groups on Facebook, and they have all these different sales groups, and everybody has their own little hobbies and everything. You're meeting with people, you're seeing people, you're talking to people. You just never know where the connection's going to happen. And
Absolutely.
so I'm always letting people know that, good things can come from just talking to someone on your computer or just writing words on your screen. You never know how the other person's going to take it. Plus, you don't know where that person is in their life, what they've been going through. And what I found in talking with her was that, it's almost like holding a mirror up to your own life when you're talking to someone, especially when you don't know anything about them. As they're sharing stuff to you, you're sharing stories. But as you're sharing stories, they're hearing things differently than you've ever thought of them. So all of a sudden it makes you think of your situations differently, and you start having these conversations, and you're both holding up a mirror to each other. And I just can't stop smiling every time I start thinking about how we met. It's like she wrote a book about our love story and had her book of poetry and essays published. I wrote a one-man show at the Fringe Festival about how we met. It's like
that's amazing. Is all of that on your Facebook that people can follow right here?
Yeah. It was called The Rock Star in Me because Meatloaf played an important part in my life 3 different times, not just bringing my wife to me because of the Meatloaf film, but also when I was a youth, when I was a kid, and then also when I was a teenager. So I started realizing, looking back at my life, I was like, wow, Meatloaf was like a light post in my life. He was like my guidepost. I hadn't, such a bizarre, of any rock star out there to have someone lead you through life holding your hand almost, and for it to be Meatloaf.
I have always loved Meatloaf. I really have. Like, he's always unapologetically himself, whether he's playing music or like he was in Tales from the Crypt one episode.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a huge Rocky Horror fan. So like I've always adored him. I even saw him on Celebrity Apprentice. Like, if I'm like, oh, Meatloaf's on, I'm totally watching that,
Yeah.
So I get it.
The very first time I heard Bat Out of Hell, it just like spoke to me. I don't know. And that's what my whole play was about, was that, my dad brought home Bat Out of Hell one day, and I was laying in my bedroom, and he threw the album from my bedroom door. He goes, "Here, I got you something. You'll like him. He's fat like you." And as an 8-year-old kid, it left a mark, but at the same time, Meatloaf sort of became my surrogate parent. He was like my role model because, my dad and we never saw eye to eye on anything, but that album of Meatloaf, there was a fat guy on the front, but he wasn't a loser. He was a rock star. He had the woman in his arm, and he had his hand on her ass. It was like this cool image. And as sad as it sounds, as an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, I would lay in bed and talk to the album cover. It's like I would have conversations with Meatloaf and talking about my life and talking about what I'm going to do, and I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to be a rock star, and all these kind of things. And then when I finally did get kicked out of the house and I was living on my own, I decided I'm 6'6". I'm over 300 pounds. I know if I want a job, what's the easiest job I can do? I can probably go to a bar and get a job as a doorman or a bouncer, right? And in Canada, you only had to be 19 because the drinking age is 19 here. So I went to a bar and I said, I'd like to work as a doorman. And they said, well, the bar's not open right now, but go on in and fill out an application. So I'm sitting in the bar filling out this application, and there's a bunch of commotion going off by the stage, and didn't really make note of it. And all of a sudden I hear a cappella singing that just like brought tears to my eyes. And I looked up, and it was Meatloaf. He was performing tonight at that nightclub. He was doing his sound check, And for his sound check, he got up on stage and just him, no band, just a cappella, he started singing Ave Maria.
Oh my
And
God.
I just lost it. I'm sitting in the dark corner of this bar, 19 years old, and my father figure, the guy that basically got me through my troubled youth, is singing Ave Maria, which in all of the research I've done, I have not found any mention anywhere of him ever singing that song.
Right. So you were one of the few to hear him sing
And it was
that.
like he was singing to me directly. And that was the night I got hired. And my first task as the new guy, as the new hire, was to do backstage security and take care of Meatloaf. And I'm like,
Wow.
oh God, here's my chance. I'm going to tell him everything that's happened and everything, and he's meant to me and all this stuff. And so the first task I was given was to take his wardrobe box, his big wardrobe container, and take it down into his dressing room. And the dressing room was under the stage at this place. So you had to go down these big stairs to get. So I'm at the bottom and I'm lumbering down the stairs, and there's another guy, another doorman is helping me. We're carrying this thing down the stairs. All of a sudden, from inside the club, someone's like, "Hey, Bob," or whatever his name was.
Right.
And he just takes off to go see who's calling him, forgetting the fact that we're halfway down the stairs with this massive box. So the thing just like, I just go, fall down the stairs with this box. It lands on my foot. I'm screaming bloody murder. And I look over. Meatloaf is sitting there drying himself. He just got out of the shower. He's drying himself. And I say, what am I supposed to do now?
Right.
He looks at me and goes, limp. And just then I get called upstairs and back to the bar. I go back to the bar. And as it turned out, I never got to talk to him. I never got another chance. So my big moment to talk with him was one word: limp.
Limp. No. You didn't
And
get to
then,
talk to him when you guys were in the movie?
well, that's what I was going to say. So
Okay.
this is in Ontario, Canada. This is out by Toronto. And now I've moved across the country. Now I'm living in Vancouver, and I get hired as I start doing acting, a little day role here, little bit parts and what have you. And I get hired on this one film, and I'm sitting in the makeup trailer, and they're doing my makeup. And I asked if I could look at the call sheet, and I'm looking at the call sheet. And right there, number one on the call sheet says Meatloaf. And I thought my brain was going to explode out of my head. I say, this like the universe is like bringing us together
Absolutely.
again. And they say, okay, we need you. So they come to get me and they take me to set. And as we're going to set, the door opens we were shooting in a bar, and the bar door opens, and the assistant director is bringing Meatloaf out back to his trailer because he's done with his scene, and now it's my turn because he's not in the scene with me. And I see, oh my God, and my brain is going 1,000 miles, and I'm trying to think of what to say and everything. And he stops. He looks at me, waiting for me to say something. And I go, hi, we work together at a bar in Kitchener. That's all I got out. And he looks at me and goes, Stages, which was the name of the club.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like blown away that he remembered the name of the club. And now I'm just like, and to me, it seemed like 5 minutes, but it was probably only like 3 seconds. But it was like 3 seconds of dead air, like nothing's happening. And finally he just like, and went off. And I get home that night, like, I've now had 2 opportunities to tell him how much he's meant to me. And both times, limp and Stages, that's the full conversation. So basically, the elongated version of that story is what my one-man show was basically, what Meatloaf meant through my life, and how that then turned into, me finding my wife. And so it was never about me and him.
Right.
It's just he was leading me, to what I needed to find, which was my wife. still blows me away. There's no reason why my wife living in Pittsburgh and me living in Vancouver, Canada, in another country altogether, should have ever crossed paths, should have ever met, should have anything.
Right.
So,
but Meatloaf was the catalyst, and that's that is an awesome story. I love that. And I love that it's him because I've always heard such great things about him as a person. So, and
the International Meatloaf Fan Club, that page where I found that original message was they would put together like a monthly newsletter kind of thing and send it out to all of the members of their fan club. And the Vancouver Sun newspaper did a whole story of how Meatloaf and how my wife and I, like on our first anniversary, I got in touch with an entertainment reporter who had interviewed me for some films that I had done in the past. And I told her this story, and she was so gobsmacked by it. She's like, well, definitely we have to write about this. So they, in the entertainment section on our anniversary, they wrote about all this. And so I decided to take my wife. I said, let's go for breakfast. She goes, we don't go for breakfast. I said, let's go for breakfast. And so we walk over to a restaurant. And as we're going to the restaurant, I say to her, go get a seat. I'm going to go get a newspaper. And she's looking at me like, what's this all about? He never reads the news. Why is he getting a newspaper? They probably got one at the bar, at the restaurant. So I go get the newspaper. And as I'm walking back to the restaurant, I'm like flipping through and I'm folding the thing over, getting it so that it's presentable so I can give it to. So I get to the restaurant and I go, here, let's read the paper. Let's start here. And I put the paper down in front of her. And there's a big picture of her and I from our wedding day with the wedding bears that my friend bought us, and a whole story about. And the title of the story in the newspaper was Sigh, SIGH. That was the title of the story. Which is funny.
The shortest headline I've ever heard.
Yeah, but it's like every woman I've told the story to, that's usually the first reaction. Is a big sigh.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. And I love that it's in print too.
Yeah, and then for my birthday, then my wife got the story. She got the story printed, got the original photo that was in the news. She put the whole thing together and got it framed so we got that in our living room now.
I love that. That's amazing.
I know we're supposed to be talking about Johnny and Frozen Dead, and we're talking about my wife.
Yeah.
Oh, she just said, stop talking about me.
Oh, we're just talking about all the rock stars, including your wife. So that's awesome. Yep. So I want to here I go throwing up again. I want to put up Johnny's information. So if you want to get a copy of the book, if you want to check out his music, if you want to check out, he's going to be in some films coming up too, which is pretty exciting. Make sure that you go to Johnny's Linktree. That is all of his socials. You can follow him and see everything he is up to. I'm so excited to be part of all of this. Like the people that I'm meeting through him, like you said, he's my Meatloaf. Like he's the guidepost for me to meet so many different people in so many different areas. And I love that Horror Adorables is what brought you guys together because his wife makes all of that. And she's a rock star too. I love Anne.
It just blows me away. It's like every time there's a new drawing, all of a sudden there's a whole new list of products and there's a whole new, and not only is there something that they could do, it's something that they've already done. And here they are.
Yes. And it's such a variety. I like to tell people because I have the ghost face pin from Scream that I got from him and Snuffleupagus. So you can, it's not all horror. It can be like all different characters. It's so fun.
It's like my resume. It's, you've got blood and gore, but you've also got the Muppets and Air Bud and Scooby-Doo.
I saw Air Bud. I was like, oh, that's adorable. I remember those movies from when my kids were little, and they're so cute.
Yeah, I did a Air Bud Spikes Back. That's where he plays beach volleyball because, of course, everybody's dog can play beach volleyball.
Why not?
And then I did Space Buddies, where now the movie was about Air Bud puppies, and the Air Bud puppies sneak into NASA and they sneak onto the spaceship, and the spaceship gets sent up to space without anybody on it except the puppies. and they end up commanding the ship and flying around space and coming back down to Earth, as you know, that happens.
That happens because NASA just doesn't pay attention to who's
and
getting on the
I'm the security guard who they got past. So,
oh well, I mean, I would let puppies do whatever they want to too, so I understand.
And then I did another movie for the same company called The Search for Santa Paws, and now Santa it's his dog. Santa Claus has his dog, who is Santa Paws,
yes.
And he goes missing from the North Pole because I think he snuck into, if I remember correctly, he snuck into Santa's bag. And then when he was here delivering presents, the dog came out of the bag and walked around. But because Santa Claus didn't know he was in the bag, now he's gone back to the North Pole, but without Santa Paws.
Without Santa Paws.
So
my dogs get visited from Santa Paws every year. That's exactly what we say. We're like, you better be good or Santa Paws won't come.
So yeah, I've gotten a chance to do a bunch of those talking dog movies for Disney, and I've gotten to do that. Like I said, I did Muppets Wizard of Oz, got to work with Kermit the Frog, which still
amazing.
Still blows me away because everybody grew up with the Muppets,
Yes.
And they always filled the TV frame, but to be with them in real life and to see what happens outside of the TV frame and have Kermit sitting in a chair in front of me, but then to have, Steve Whitmire, the guy who was the puppeteer, he's on a creeper, like at a mechanic,
yeah.
And he's sliding around on his back, but he's got his hand up in frame. He's got a TV monitor on his chest. He's got the mic because they speak the lines as they're rolling around on the ground. So they're doing the puppetry and the lines at the same time. And then Dave Goelz, who is most famous for doing Gonzo the Great.
Yes.
He was on another creeper laying next to him. And when in my scene, when Kermit the Frog goes to get up to go talk to Ashanti, who plays Dorothy in Muppets Wizard of Oz, when he gets up, he pushes himself away from the table. Well, everything they do is so real and so believable that you don't even think about, you just accept what you're seeing. But in reality, Dave Goelz is on the floor and he's responsible for moving the chair. When you're watching it, Kermit goes to get up, you see him take his hand and push away on the table. The chair moves back, but it's actually two guys sliding around on the ground doing all this.
That's a workout. Like your arm alone to keep up, that's amazing.
And because they have the same frame that the camera is seeing, so they're not even looking at anything that's going on up here. They're looking in the monitor and everything is up here above their head. It's such a science. These guys have been doing it for so long. So to have that dream, I wished that moment had come when Jim Henson was still alive, because that would have just made it that much better. And then I've done 2 Scooby-Doo movies, so I've gotten to work with 2 versions of Scooby-Doo, because Scooby-Doo Mystery Begins is when they decided to go back to high school to show how Mystery Inc. was formed and how they came together. So now they're all being played by teenagers. And so it was a different Scooby-Doo. You get to see him as a puppy, and you get to see him get taken home from the pound, and how he ends up with Shaggy. And in that one, I got to play a human instead of Minor 49er, where I was basically a ghost or a monster that comes alive. I'm basically a costume that comes alive.
I was going to say you're the costume of Minor 49er.
I'm the costume of Minor 49er, right. And then in the second one, I'm just the janitor at the school, but they think I'm like the red herring because they think I'm the evil, I'm the villain of the episode thing.
Right.
But as it turns out, I'm just wearing a cape because I'm a janitor who loves to dance, and I'm auditioning for a dancing competition, and I'm filming myself down in the boiler room of the school. And they're like, aha, he's the bad guy. No, I'm just wearing a velour cape because this is my dance routine.
Because I'm fabulous. Leave me alone. I would not have seen that coming. That would not have been a storyline I ever would have predicted. So I love that.
And because I did Are We There Yet? A movie that's on every Christmas.
Yes.
with Ice Cube. And Brian Levant, who directed that, he also directed the Flintstone movies and Jingle All the Way. And so he's done a lot of these family movies. And then when he came back to do that Scooby-Doo film, he brought me in because we'd worked together already. And he says, I'm thinking of a part that you might be good, but I don't know. Can you dance? I was like, can I dance?
Did you not see Scooby-Doo? I'm fabulous. That's what you got to start just telling people. I'm fabulous.
And I got to do a big dance number in Dudley Do Right. It was with me and Sarah Jessica Parker because I played Snidely Whiplash, who was played by Alfred Molina. He has a bunch of henchmen, all his bad guys, and I play one of his main, Shane, one of his main henchmen. And I had finished the film. They were wrapping me at the end of the day, and I was looking at the call sheet for the next week. I'm like, there's a big auditorium scene. There's a convention. There's a big dance number. And I go up to Hugh Wilson, the director, and I said, how come Shane isn't in any of these? I mean, I'm one of the henchmen. I should be here. And he goes, well, can you dance? Once again.
I'm
and I
fabulous.
Go, can I dance? And I start dancing right there on the spot. And he says, okay, leave it with me. And that's all he said. And then they wrapped me out and I went home. And I get home and all of a sudden there's a phone call that says, hi, a Teamster will be out front at 7 a.m. to take you to dance rehearsal. Oh.
I didn't realize it was 7 a.m.
I didn't realize there were rehearsals. As it turns out, this big dance number, they'd been rehearsing this thing for weeks. And they had everything already planned out. So now I get to dance rehearsal and they're like, oh, what are we going to do with you? We've already got all the routines planned out. And I said, once again, here's me with my suggestions. I said to the choreographer, what if I'm just like 2 steps behind everybody running around like a chicken with his head cut off because I don't know what I'm doing? Because basically at that point, anything that they were going to teach me was going to come across as me running around, not knowing anything because I just can't keep track of all the counting the steps and the beats and all that stuff. So now when you see Dudley Do Right, it's just a big dance number and 2 steps behind everybody is just me running around with my hands in the air, trying to keep up with them. But because they'd already worked out this big dance number, they had to figure out what to do with me at the end of all this. And so Brendan Fraser as Dudley Do Right, Snidely Whiplash, Alfred Molina, they're both fighting over Sarah Jessica Parker, Nell. They both want her. And so there's like a tug of war going off in the middle of the screen in the big dance number. And finally, one of the dancers grabs Sarah Jessica Parker, pulls her out from between these two. They end up falling down. It's like taking the rope away from the tug of war.
Right.
And they throw the rope, which is Sarah Jessica Parker, at me. And I'm like, throw her up on my shoulder and just go, ta-da!
That's so you got the big ending.
I got the big ending, and I wasn't even supposed to be in the number. And then I got 3 more days on that thing. So it's like, you just always got to keep suggesting,
Absolutely. And I completely understand that. I'm pole dependent. Like, my book's about when I used to dance and all that. But if you get me away from this thing, I'm, like I'm just doing the wedding dance, like I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay, well, I told you before we started that I had pole experience in my past.
I'm so curious.
And so I figure this is better time than any to tell you what I meant by that.
Yes.
So when I first moved to Vancouver, this was in 1989, which had started 4 days earlier. A friend and me were at a donut shop and we were sitting there and he says, what do you want to do today? And I said, what do you want to do? He says, let's go to Vancouver. I had no idea where Vancouver was, what Vancouver was. It was a city on the other side of the country. I didn't know anything, but he'd been here before. So I didn't have anything to do. School was over. I was on student welfare. So I was living on my own. So we jumped on a Greyhound bus. 4.5 days later, we got to Vancouver.
Wow.
And let me tell you, 4.5 days on a bus,
Yeah.
you get to know a lot of people by smell.
I was just gonna say that. I could smell it when you just said 4.5 days on a bus. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Because there's no matter how many bus stations you stop at,
Yeah.
there's no showers, there's no
No.
bathtubs, there's no, little
I was gonna say the little like air dryer and this soap and yeah.
and people were
Doesn't
like,
cut
wow,
it
that
after a
must be
while.
an amazing trip. You got to see all of Canada. And I was like, no, I got to see what the hamburgers look like at the Moose Jaw bus station. I got, it's like, because also
Manitoba.
that part of the trip is driving across nothing but prairies.
Right.
So it's like, 3.5 days of wheat fields,
Wheat
you'd be
fields and smelly people. There's a
I was
Greyhound commercial.
I was so depressed because at one point I fell asleep. I woke up, I looked out the window, and it was the exact same thing, except it was 8.5 hours later. And I thought the bus had stopped because there was nothing. And then it turns out that when we drove through the Rocky Mountains, that was at night. And I never saw any of it.
They didn't get to see any of it. Oh, that
No.
stinks.
And so we show up, we get to Vancouver, and I'm like, well, I got to find a job. He goes, I know someone. He'll hire you. You're a good bouncer. So we went to this place. It was called the Cobalt. It was a strip club. I didn't know that at the time. I thought it was a bar. We went in, and he says, King, I want to introduce you to, and I went by Tiny back then because, when you're on the streets, you don't want people to know who you are. So,
Right.
I was
don't
Tiny.
Want anybody knowing your government name. So.
Exactly. And for some reason, people just think it's hilarious to call someone my size Tiny. So
yes.
that was my nickname. And so we walk into this place, and he goes, this is my friend Tiny. He's looking for a job as a bouncer. And as you can see, he's a big guy. You could probably use him, right? And he says, no, we don't need anybody. We don't need any bouncers. I said, oh, okay, never mind, whatever. And I turned around to leave. He goes, I just need a DJ. And I was like, oh.
I can do that.
This is where the actor in me kicked in. I was like, DJ? Now remember, I've never been in a DJ booth. I've never been a DJ. I don't know what a DJ does. I know they play music. I don't know anything. So I just, all of a sudden, I turned around and I go, well, you are in luck, because I was and I just started naming every club that I'd ever been to back east. I go, I was head DJ at Stages. I was head DJ at Checkers. And then I just started naming clubs that I even remember seeing. I'd never even been to. What's he going to do? He's going to check me? And he goes, oh, great. I need a DJ so badly. He says, why don't you come tonight? You can meet Ali. He's the head DJ. And you can touch base with him. I said, okay. He says, yeah, you come back at 6. So now remember, this is in the daytime. So the bar is completely empty. Yeah. So didn't really look around. I didn't even notice there was a stage, there was a bar. I didn't notice any of that stuff. So I come back at 6 o'clock. Now the place is packed. The lights are all the stage lights are flashing, and I see there's a 2 poles on stage, and there's a girl on stage, and guys are like, show, and it's like I can clearly see that, oh boy, this is a strip club. So I go, and behind the bar, there was like a little hole in the wall that you slid into. And that's basically they created a DJ booth out of like a storage closet kind of thing,
right?
With a hole in the wall, but this big that you could see the stage. Yep. Oh, I can see the stage, the hole in the wall. And so I walk in, and the guy says, hi, you must be Tiny. And I says, yeah, you must be Ali. He goes, yes, so you're the new DJ. I said, I guess so. He goes, okay, I'll see you at midnight. And he leaves.
He just left you?
Girls on stage, music's playing, and he leaves.
Oh my gosh.
All of a sudden, I start to notice there's no music playing. Now all I can hear are the lights, because the lights don't stop flashing, right?
Right.
So now the bar is completely silent. All I hear is, and through all of that, I hear, hello, I look up and there's a completely naked woman with her hands on her hips staring at
Where's
me,
my music?
looking at the hole in the wall, staring at me. And I'm like, oh, sorry. And now I'm looking down at the panel in front of me. I don't know what I'm looking at. I just see a bunch of levers and a bunch of switches. I don't know nothing. And I see one that says MIC1 and 2 and 2 equals 4.
Right.
I know MIC spells Mike. That must be the mic. And I take the lever and I push it right up to the top. And all you hear through the whole nightclub is people are ducking for cover. There's feedback everywhere. And I'm like, and I pull it back down. And I didn't realize at the moment that, the mic in front of me is live and everything I'm thinking out loud. So
and
I'm like,
everyone can hear your inner dialogue.
so I'm
outer.
like, okay, guys. And now I'm trying to remember the few times in my life that I've been to a strip club. What do they say? What do they do? So I'm like, okay, guys, let's now let's hear some noise for I'm looking everywhere for a piece of paper or something that has the stripper's name on it. I'm looking. Okay, guys, let's hear it for and all of a sudden, through the empty cavernous bar, I hear La Donna. Oh, okay, guys, let's hear it for La Donna. And all of a sudden, I hear shower, 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 and all the guys in the club start chanting shower. I just figured out how this mic works. Now I got to turn the shower on and play music. So I see a button it says shower. So I press the button and they had like a champagne glass on stage that had like a globe in the center of it. And the water would come out fill the champagne glass, and she would stand on there, and then she would the dancers would sit on this little globe, and the water would gush underneath them. It was like a bidet. I don't know. It was so
they needed one of them on the Greyhound bus.
Yeah. So I turn that on, and now I'm like music. So I look over and I see there's tape 1 and tape 2 because I'm old and we still had tape decks, right?
Right.
So I go, so I press play on tape 1, and I look down next to MIC1 on the board. It says TAP1. I'm a genius now. I know how this works. I'm going to press play. I'm going to bring this up, but not all the way. I'm going to bring it up. And what I didn't know was the previous dancer, that was her tape, and the guy had faded the music down when she came off. So I go, okay, guys, you wanted a shower? Here we go. LaDonna in the shower. Now let's put your hands together and let's hear some noise. And I press play on the thing, and it goes, ba-bum-dum-ba-dum-dum.
That's it.
Okay, guys, thank you. And I just turned everything off. And she hadn't even got in the shower yet. And I'd already turned everything back off. The music was off. And then I just pressed play on the other one, and some rock music came on. And oh my God, what a nightmare. So at the end of all this, I get upstairs. It's now after midnight. It's like 2:00 in the morning. Oh, and to tell you, by the end of the night, when the DJ came at midnight, I'm sitting in there. I'm like, okay, guys, and remember, while you feed those hungry eyes, you can quench those thirsty lips. We got highballs for $6.75. We got beer for $3.79. Let's stick around. I'm like Mr.
You had it.
I'm down now. Thank God nobody was there for the nightmare earlier. So I got paid $5. That was my that got $5 for the whole shift. I got a watered down pint of beer, and I got a room upstairs. So considering I just came across Canada, and the same day that I got here, I've got a job, I've got a beer, and I got a room. Right?
There you go.
So I'm now upstairs, and I'm laying in my room. I'm like, what the hell is that? It smells like sour cream and onion chips. Just looking around, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's right. I've been on a bus for 4.5 days.
That's so funny.
And chances are, it probably was a couple days before before we left that I had actually taken a shower already. So it's probably like a week since I've taken a real shower. And I'm like, oh God. So I go to the bathroom at the place. They only had 2 bathrooms on the 4th floor and on the 2nd floor. The rooms didn't have bathrooms. It was like a communal, one of these old-fashioned hotels where they just had communal bathrooms. And so I go in the one and no showers. So they only had a bathtub. And I turned the water on and it was like liquid rust.
Oh, gross.
Oh God. So then I go into the 2nd bathroom down on the 2nd floor and there's a drunk passed out in the thing, puke everywhere. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. And I go back up the stairs. And as I go back up the stairs, there's a woman, she's naked and she's like strung out on heroin on the steps. And I'm like, oh my God, what the hell? I'm like Mr. Suburbia from Ontario. And now I'm like in the midst of all this. I get back upstairs. I'm like, what am I going to do? And all of a sudden, my brain hears shower, shower, shower. Hey, I got keys for the bar. Where's those keys? I know. There might be no bathtub up here, but I know. So I go down and I go into the bar, I open the door, and to turn the lights on, to turn the shower on, you had to turn on the power. Well, as soon as you turned on the power, all the bar lights came on. So through the whole club, you just hear, because it's like 3 a.m. There's no music, there's nothing. So just, and I turn the hot water on, I get up on stage, and I'm looking around. I take everything off. I get up there. I grab the one pole. I grab the other pole, basically lift myself up onto the stage by the poles. I get up in there. Now I'm standing in this wine glass, completely naked. First day in Vancouver, 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm on the stage, holding the pole with one hand, standing in this glass, and I'm having the best shower of my life. And I've got soap, and I'm scrubbing, and oh my God! And the whole time, all the lights are going off around me. I feel like the best stripper in the world. And then all of a sudden, I hear ka-dunk, ka-dunk, ka-dunk. And I stopped frozen. It was the janitor who was coming in to clean the club, drops his bucket on the ground.
I bet he did.
And all I hear, oh my God, please tell me you're not the feature next week. And I was like,
That's hilarious.
So that's my stripper story.
That is so much more than I was ever expecting. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
So that whole scene was played out in my one-man show too, with the lights and the guy and the please tell me you're not the feature next week. And
I can hear the lights too, because I know exactly what you're talking. It's like the beginning of Girls on Film by Duran Duran. You hear like that.
Yeah. And so many for just mentioning that Bon Jovi, there's one song, Motley Crue, there's both Bon Jovi and Motley Crue and Aerosmith, all 3 of them have songs that are either about strippers or mention strip clubs. All 3 of those albums were recorded in Vancouver, and they're all about famous Vancouver. They mention like the Marble Arch in the one Motley Crue song, which is the famous strip club that used to be in Vancouver. So it's funny, all of this rock stars that came to Vancouver to record albums became very friendly with all of the different strip clubs in town.
Can you imagine what songs would have been written if they saw your shower show?
Oh my!
I mean, they would. But I have to it's a perfect opportunity to plug my book though, because if you buy a signed paperback, you will get a free compilation playlist that does have Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, and Aerosmith, among other people, on it. So learndingogo.com, please.
I became good at picking the songs because the dancers. There would either be 3 songs or 4 songs, depending on the club. And there was always the blanket song, the slow song. There was the mid-range song, and then there's the fast hard rocking song. I had to learn all the different songs, and I was so shy. And I'm still shy, but I was so shy. I mean, I was a virgin until I was 28, and this is when I was 19. So they tell me, go upstairs and get so-and-so. So I'd go upstairs and I'd knock on the door, and the door would open, and there's a room with like 6, 7 women all walking around in different stages of nothing.
Yep.
To them, it's just this is just the office. We're getting ready to go to work.
Yep.
And I'd be in the hallway. Yeah, can you tell Cherry that she's gonna gotta go on in 5 minutes? It's like I couldn't even look in the room.
Yeah,
You know,
I worked with DJs like that, and that was always like cute because then you'd have the other guys that would hang out in there. It's like, no, this is not your place. You know, like, that's
Yeah,
really
and then-
and I love that you said cherry because sometimes the DJ list sounded like a recipe. Yeah, it's
Oh
like
my
we have
God.
vanilla, cinnamon, cherry.
yes. And coming next week, watermelon.
That
And I
was
remember there was some at the time. There was some famous porn star. I think her name was Samantha Strong. And this one thing at this club, they used to bring porn stars in who are the worst dancers. They don't dance. They would
Yep, they don't
pay
have
them.
to.
First of all, they'd pay them like $15,000 because they have a name. They'd bring
Yep.
people into the club, the same club where the other girls were getting lucky to get $100, and they would just get up on stage, take everything off, and then walk back and forth for 3 songs, and then get back off the stage and leave.
Yep.
And I remember this Samantha Strong. I remember her saying to me in the DJ booth, she goes, "My driver." And their driver / rep / security / the guy that takes
The
them everywhere.
one-stop shop.
Yeah. Says, my driver and I want to go and have a nice steak, but we don't want to go anywhere where the commoners might be. And I'm looking at first of all, I'm surprised that she even knows that word. But secondly, I'm like, you see this 4-page resume that you just had me read to introduce you?
Yeah.
I look at her and I'm reading all these films, and I said to her, what is this, like 2 weekends worth of work? I know it wasn't very respectful, but it just
neither was what she said. That's terrible.
Just threw me for a loop when she's like, I don't want to go. I'm assuming she meant the people that are in the club. She doesn't want to go eat somewhere where they're going to be at. But
right. But you don't say the commoner.
I never
That's
even
terrible.
thought of a porn star using the word commoner.
No.
This was in 1990 before they even really had porn stars.
Yep. Yeah, we had like Shane, which is funny because that was one of your character names, but Shane's World, she came to one. And my favorite was, I mentioned this story in my book too. I had a manager that was not very nice to me, and he used to call me fat, and I weighed 40 pounds less than I weigh now at the time. So, and he was, like a big guy that needed to shut the hell up. So anyway, he had a reputation for not being a nice guy, and it was his birthday. So we got him on stage and we handcuffed him to the pole. So we were all going to, give him a lap dance for his birthday. And he sat there with that little shit-eating grin, blindfolded and slimy man. And we had hired, her name was Mountain Fiji, and she was a 500-pound stripper that jumped up and landed on his lap.
Oh my.
And we all laughed and laughed. And we paid her so good. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience to see that. I can still see that look of shock on his face right now. It was so wonderful.
And did the blindfold come off?
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually.
Which was the second shock face that I can still see. And I'm just like, well, that's what you get. That's called karma, sweetheart.
So yeah, the beginning of my life in Vancouver started there. Within 2 weeks, I had basically gotten kicked out of that place, got in a bar fight with the bartender and 3 of the waitresses, and got my head beat in, and I was bloody. I got a scar on my head here somewhere from a pool cue from the Rudy, the bartender. And there's a famous rock and roll singer. Her name's Biff Naked, and my first week in Vancouver ended up with me and her sitting on the curb outside this bar waiting for the ambulance to come take me that was my first. And turns out she became a rock star later. At that point, she was just a friend of one of the strippers, right? But I ended up going to another bar, another hotel downtown, and I'm in the elevator coming down, and the elevator door opens, and it's the same owner from the place that kicked me out. I didn't know he owned this other hotel too. So it's just like, and so I finally got a job at a real nightclub, a big club on the Expo lands where they had Expo 86, which was the World Exposition when it was in Vancouver in 1986.
Okay.
And they had a big bar that would hold like 3,000 people. And on a busy night, they'd have like 25 doormen. So I got a job working there. And within my first couple of weeks, these two women approached me and they said, "Excuse me, are you in the film industry by chance?" Film industry? Well, I'm working in a bar. And they go, "Well, you have an interesting face. I think we could probably do something with you." And I thought, bunch of chicks just trying to pick me up, whatever. They handed me a card. I put the card in my pocket, never thought about it. They went on with the night. I went on with the night. Got home, threw the card on my desk. A couple weeks later, I'm cleaning up my desktop and I come across this card. I'm looking at it and it says that they're talent agents. Like, wow, maybe this was for real.
True, yeah.
So I contacted them and I told them if they remembered me, and I met with them. I told them, yeah, I'm not in the film industry, but I was acting all through school. I did plays, I did improv and skits and assemblies and everything. And this is very interesting. I'd love to do something like this. And within the week, I had an agent, and within the week, I had booked my first TV commercial, and I was shooting a commercial for BC Chicken Growers. It's like the chicken association, like the farmers kind of thing.
Okay.
And it was a commercial for that. That was February 27th, 1990. I had just turned 20. And once again, it's like nothing happens on purpose with me. It's like one of these old fashioned, golden days of Hollywood story where the starlet, the girl is at the counter at the drugstore having her little soda, and the guy recognizes her and says, "You should be an actress."
Right.
And next thing you know, she's an actress. Well, this is how I got into the film. It's like, not only did I meet my wife like this, it's like, this is how I became an actor. Two women said, "You got a face I think we could do something with." And
that's so awesome.
And that's what I was saying earlier about meeting my wife. You just have to allow yourself to be open to stuff.
Yep,
you just
absolutely.
It's like that what they teach you in improv, yes and.
Yep, never say no in improv. It's always yes.
Always yes and that works in life too.
Yep.
You never know where. I've noticed with a lot of these, like with this interview and with a lot of the podcasts and stuff, I just always say, yeah, I'd love to talk. Because, you get to meet new people, you get to make friends, you get to make connections. And next thing you know, someone that you talk to is now in a position where they're making a film. And all of a sudden they're like, that guy, I really like that guy that I talked to. Why don't I see if, things like that happen. I've worked on films where, some grip that's standing in the background holding a flag by the light. 2 years later, he's now making his own film, and he remembers how you treated him then.
Yes.
And,
that goes far, how you treat people. And what you were saying about the connections and everything. I have, we're friends on my Sydnee author page, and then I have one that's just Sydnee. And every morning I do a positive affirmation. And a lot of what I talk about is being open, and the universe is going to put you on the path that will give you the tools that you need to move forward. And that's like every story you are telling is how the universe has been like, you need to be in Vancouver now. Like you said, you're hanging around with nothing to do. So you decided to go to Vancouver, and it completely changed the course of your life, that one decision.
And if I had said, who knows what, I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have met, all the things that have happened. And when you start to look through life and you look at these situations, be it with my wife, be it with my career, be it with anything, you start to go backwards and you start realizing all the what if moments. It's like, what if I had done this instead of this? And what if I had done this instead of it? Goes all the way back. Like my wife, the only reason she recorded that movie with Meatloaf was because she was going to watch it, but then all of a sudden she had to go somewhere. So she pressed record on the VCR. Yep. If if she hadn't have pressed record, she wouldn't have recorded it. There would have been no reason. And if she had stayed home, she wouldn't have recorded it. She would have just watched it.
And if she didn't know about the website and hadn't spoken up on there, all these what ifs, you're right.
And you go back one more step. It's like she was working at home and they were playing VH1, and VH1 was showing the VH1 storytellers with Meatloaf. And they were airing that all the time. So she was watching that. And while she was watching, the commercial came on announcing the Storytellers tour, and that he was going to be coming to Pittsburgh to the theater. And she was like, wow, I used to listen to Meatloaf in the 70s. I really liked him. I think I'm going to go to this concert. So she goes to the concert. And while she's at the concert, he talks about, after I'm done filming, I'm going up to Vancouver to shoot a movie called Blacktop. So that's how the name of that movie got in her head. And he said he reminds people about the film and to check it out. Then she's sitting there, and the lady in front of her is bought one of those expensive, the $25 programs. When you go to a concert, there's always somebody who's got the program. Yes. She says, excuse me, can I look at that? And she looks at it, and she's looking at it. And by looking at the program is where she sees the web address for this fan club. She remembers the address. Then he mentions the film. She remembers the film because he mentioned it at the concert that she saw, because she saw the commercial. It's like you just keep going backwards, and you start realizing all these little steps you take in life. Even like you're standing at a green light waiting for the light to change, and someone standing next to you, they may only be in your life for 5 seconds while you're waiting for the light to change. But in that 5 seconds, they may say something to you. And if you're open to whatever it is they say, that might change everything, the way you look at something or whatever, So always keep open to the situations. It's the yes and. Yes. I mean, that's how I got this shirt. And that's how I got another shirt. And that's how I met up with Johnny. And that's how I ended up here. And it just...
it's amazing when, like you said, when you actually take the time to step back and look at all of the steps. I talk a lot about, it's called the Camp Out for Hunger that I went to in November. One of our local radio stations has it, and it's the largest food drive in the country. And they've been doing it for decades. And unfortunately, insomnia has become a new friend. So I was awake. It was like 4:00 in the morning. I'm like, I'm going to go to Camp Out for Hunger. I had never been, but I know the show starts at 6 a.m. So I'm like, I'm going to go. And I met this guy, Frankie, who had a podcast, and he invited me on, and I was a guest. And I'm like, okay, that's fun. When can I do that again? He's like, you should have your own. I'm like, okay, let's do it. So start a podcast. And then that's how I reached out to the guy that has the Comic-Con, what I went to for the first time last year because of Lea Savoli invited me to come to support her. And so he was like, does anybody have a podcast? I'm like, I'm literally just starting it, but if you want to come on it, sure. So then through that, we were doing interviews at Comic-Con, and that's how I met Johnny. And through Johnny, have just met so many just amazingly wonderful, kind people. And it's just been such a blessing in my life. And if I didn't have insomnia, if I didn't decide, you know what, I'm awake anyway, I might as well go bring some food to the food drive and enjoy the show. You
could have just went and got yourself an indica cigarette, smoked it, and went to sleep, and none of this would have happened.
Right, exactly. So it's all those little bitty moments. You never know what's going to completely change your path. And I like to say, too, the times of you decide you're going to have a career, you work for the company for 35 years, you get your gold watch and you retire are over. Yeah. And there's no reason why you can't start a new career at any point. Yeah. So, it's like, I decided I was going to start a podcast at 49. Who cares? Who cares? You just give it a
go. You don't need a recording contract now. You just need to have a microphone to plug your thing into. You don't need to anybody. You can self-publish. With this and with books. My wife. Yeah.
Both of them.
My wife's book was self-published, and you just have to want something bad enough, and you can make it happen. Whether or not things take off, well, the world is full of what ifs, and what if I didn't do it? Then you wouldn't know. You know, sometimes it might not work out, and sometimes it will. But unless you try it, what was that the thing that Wayne Gretzky used to say? You miss
100% of the
100%
shots
of
you
all
don't
the
take.
shots you don't take.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I like to say closed mouths never get fed. So, if you don't ask, you don't open your mouth, you're never getting fed. So I like that.
I never heard that. That's true.
Yep. And it's like, what do you have to lose? Really, I spent money on a mic on Amazon and then it doesn't take off. I'm having a great time. I'm meeting wonderful people. And to me, that's the payback. Like you said, if you do something you enjoy, you never work a day in your life. And it's, I'm just having fun, and I figure I jump off the cliff and I learn to fly on the way down. So,
and talking about these situations, it even go like in 1996, it had been 6 years since I did that first commercial in 1990. 1996, by that point, I had done maybe 30 commercials. I had done some TV shows. I'd done the occasional movie, but it's all been one day here, one day there, and not enough to live off of. But in 1996, I was working as an office manager at a company that made air filtration units for the auto body industry. And I was the office manager, and my boss would let me go to auditions when I'd have them and come back and continue. And then all of a sudden, I'll just go back one step. I did a short film with a bunch of guys that I knew. It was the term didn't exist. What they call fan films now.
yeah.
We did a fan film in 1994. It was called Alien IV ? It was basically Alien 4 didn't exist yet. They had just had Alien 3. And so the director was like, what if there was another film? Where would it have continued on to? What would have happened to these characters? So we basically it was like a half-hour short film. And it was a silly little nothing. But a friend of one of the people in this film with me had shown it to one of his friends, who was also an actor, but he was also a screenwriter. He saw my little part in this little short film, nothing, shot on video. And my character in that made enough of an impression on him that when he was writing his next feature, he based one of the lead characters on me, someone he'd never met, just from this little short video that I did. And so one day I get a call from my friend who I was in this film with. He says, I showed the film to a friend of mine. He was so impressed by you that he wrote a character in his feature around you, based on you, and he wants to meet with you because he wants to offer you the role of the lead in this feature. I was like, what? That doesn't happen. Okay. So I meet with him. As it turns out, because I'm one of the leads, I'm going to be needed for the entire shoot, which is like a week and a half.
Right.
And so I talked to my boss, and I can't give you a week and a half off. It's one thing for you to take a couple hours to go to an audition.
Right.
We can make that work, but I need you here. You're running the office. And once again, it was one of those life moments where I was like, okay, universe, here's your chance. If this is what you want me to do, then you're going to have to take care of me. And I put it out to the universe that, okay, the world apparently wants me to be a full-time actor. And so I quit my job working there, left him high and dry. Oh, well. And I went and shot my first feature. And that is what made me take that final step. And once again, it was because I had said yes to doing this silly little short film on video that I figured nobody would ever see. All it took was for one guy to see it and to me make enough of an impression that he wrote a film for me.
That's incredible.
And then we end up becoming producing partners, and we've done 3 more films since. And,
I love that.
And funny enough, that film that I'm talking about, we started that in 1996. We didn't finish it until 2017.
Oh, wow. That happens though sometimes, you
Well,
know?
because back then, when you made a film, you shot it on real film on 16
Yeah.
millimeter, and that cost money, and all the rentals and everything cost money. And then you had to, if you're going to show it at a festival, you're going to have to get it blown up to 35. That was going to be like $40,000 to do the blow up and all the stuff that we still wanted to do with the film. We couldn't afford it. So we
Right.
basically put the film on the shelf. And for 14 years, it sat on the shelf. And one day, Anthony, my producing partner, sees a documentary about digital video, about the whole digital world, and how you can now take the negative from your film and scan it into your computer, and now you have ones and zeros, and the film is now in the computer. And his mind just started to go, like, he started to realize that he could finish this film the way he wanted, and he started to do his own animation. So the whole film, even though the film is in black and white, the main character, who has all of these fantastical dreams, they're in color, and his life is in black and white. So it's the
Okay.
reverse of reality. And we ended up finally getting it out, and we won Best Animated Film at another Hole in the Head Film Festival in San Francisco, and
Congratulations.
thanks, and won a film festival in New York. But you know, it's now what, 7 years later, and we're still trying to get a distributor for it, because it's one of those films that doesn't fit any category.
Right.
You know, it's like we used to describe it. What if Woody Allen was to reshoot The Elephant Man, but as a road movie, and then throw in aspects of Scanner Darkly? You know,
You can't really put that in a box. That doesn't fit neatly in any box.
No. So everyone we talked to, they're like, well, it sounds very interesting, but I have no idea how to sell this. So
Yeah.
now we're just at the point where maybe we're just going to, put it on Tubi or YouTube or something, just so we can finally just get it out there.
Tubi is a fantastic streaming platform, and it's just been snowballing, like, and getting more popular.
I read an article this morning that in the last month, if you add up Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and there was one other, Peacock, all those streaming sites added together, Tubi had more hits than all those added together.
Yes,
And
I
that's
believe it.
primarily independent horror. It's like people are just, there's so much independent horror on Tubi to start with.
Yep.
Not to mention all the documentaries and all the other stuff. But, it's like, so you have to watch a few commercials. Guess what?
Exactly.
We grew up with TV. We get it.
Exactly. I discovered Tubi initially because I wanted to watch Repo the Genetic Opera. I wanted to stream it, and that's where that was. And then, like, Zombie Strippers is on there, which is one of my favorites. And I'm just like, okay, now I know what Tubi is. So I keep going back and finding more and more little gems on there.
I'm just going to ask it, how many episodes?
1,245.
My wife found and watched 1,245 episodes of Dark Shadows from the 60s on Tubi.
I didn't know there were that many episodes.
Because it was a daily soap opera.
True.
And it was on every day. They have every episode that ever aired. So 1,000, I think she's watched it twice. She's been through all 1,000.
Have I mentioned that your wife is a rock star? I need to mention this again. That is incredible.
It's like a show that she saw once that she remembered from her childhood.
Yep.
It's amazing how it stuck with her so strongly that when she saw it, it was like, oh, I gotta, and it became a daily thing. She had to watch her 3 or 4 episodes of Dark Shadows every day.
It was a vibe. It was like one of those shows, Dark Shadows, and I always talk about Creature Double Feature when I was growing up. That vibe is very unique. So I understand getting drawn to it.
And that's the great thing with Tubi, is just finding those hidden gems that you didn't even know were out there. And then you're like, what? All 1,200 episodes? Like, it just blew my mind that there was even a place you could find that many episodes of anything.
Yes. One of my best friends was just talking about a movie she found on Tubi, and it has Anthony Geary, who was Luke in General Hospital.
Yeah.
It's called Intimate Paradise or something. The premise is there was an epidemic that broke out in the Hamptons of herpes.
Oh my.
And he's a doctor that his whole thing is like to get the, and she sends me a clip. I think it was Robert Wagner, and he's like, "We're selling paradise here. This is in downtown Philadelphia." And we're like, "Hey, we live near Philadelphia." Like she lives in Philly. I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's like all the cheesy TV movies from the 70s and 80s. There's so many of those on there.
Yeah, they're
And
so great.
also a lot of the direct to video, the soft core crap, it's like I've done a few of those. I did one called Crash, which was released in the States as Breach of Trust with Michael Biehn and Leilani Sorrell, who played Sharon Stone's girlfriend in Basic Instinct, the one
Okay.
that she's on the dance floor with and everything. And it's basically, 2 hours of them naked and having sex and then gunfire and car chases,
So just the basics.
your basic direct-to-video soft-core gunfire movie.
That's
And it's funny that
hilarious.
the guy who produced that, his brother is the guy who did all the produced all the Air Bud, and then all of the Disney. So they started their career making all of these direct-to-video soft-core action films. The
That's
one
so
brother goes off on the Air Bud direction and makes Air Bud and the Air Buddies movies and the Santa Paws and all those movies. And his other brother went off and started making series. And he did the movie, produced Capote with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah.
and
Wow.
I worked on that. So not only do I got all these horror films and all these kiddie films, I've also got Academy Award winning films. So
That's
it's
so awesome.
nice
All
to have this.
because you got on a bus to Vancouver.
Yeah.
That
And
is
let me
so
tell
cool.
you, that was a trip and a half. Because the back half of the bus, about 20 people, they were making the entire trip. And then the front of the bus would change from bus station to bus station. People would
It was
we'd
the
get on
local and the express.
yeah.
Like
And so there was a group of about 20 people who made the entire trip, and we would get onto the new buses and we would switch buses and everything. But we were it was like a party bus at the back of the bus. We had the radio playing. They were playing strip poker. Guys would go when we would have a stop at a station, they'd get like a 20 ounce or a 40 ounce or a big bottle of booze. We'd be rolling the bottles down the aisle back and forth. We were drinking back there. Like I said, they were playing strip poker. It was like a party at the back of the bus. And then the front of the bus was just people trying to ignore us so they could get some sleep.
right. That's so funny.
And it's so funny. It's just like within 2 minutes of getting off the bus in Vancouver, these people who were like your ride or die, these people that you spent the last 4 days with,
Never see again.
Never seen them again. Couldn't tell you what any of them looked like. I still remember the stories, but I couldn't tell you who the people were. But that shouldn't surprise me because I have roommates from my past that I couldn't even tell you who they were, what their names were, what they looked like.
Right.
I don't know. My wife always jokes with me that my brain is like a sieve, but I think because 35 years of having to learn dialogue.
I was just going to say, you're full of dialogue. You don't have room for.
So I'm
those
constantly wiping the slate clean and starting over. But at the same time, I did a play in 1986, and it's like, who could do nothing for the girl? Of course, it was Dr. Bill who thought she might be taught. I've been writing the family loan in the government as soon as it's like all that stuff is still there. It's like I did the Miracle Worker in 1986, and because it was a play, we rehearsed it for so long, it's still stuck in my head.
There.
But if you ask me the name of a neighbor from 3 years ago,
it's gone. Yeah, I can still tell you. I can still do Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost that I learned in 5th grade. But most of my brain is song lyrics and like trivia. If it was actual scientific stuff, I could take over the world. But instead, I can tell you like something really minute that means absolutely nothing, but it's in there.
Yeah, on the that's my game that I play with my wife and Spotify, because she's like that with lyrics and with so I'll go to Spotify and I'll play I said, don't look at the TV, don't look at the screen, and I'll play a song to see how long it takes for her to tell me who it is or what the song's name is. And as soon as she gets it, I'll stop and I'll pick another one, and because the thing I love about Spotify is everything has the fans also like.
Yes.
And so then you can, and you,
Then you can
I found so many interesting performers I'd never heard of, just because it's like, well, if you like this, you might like this. And so then I'll find other people, and I can tell when I'm in the 60s and the 70s, and I've started to creep into the 80s, because all of a sudden she has this blank look. It's like, you're getting into the 80s now, because I don't know what you're playing here. 60s and 70s.
It up. Like she and I would be a great team for that, because my husband actually does the same thing with Spotify. We were sitting out at the fire pit, and he's like, all right, I want to see how fast you can name these. And it's the same game. I love that you play it too, but I'm more 80s, 90s. So
Yeah.
she and I would be a really cool team to play this game.
Where I'll pick some obscure band name I've never heard of, and she'll rattle it off, and I'm like, I never even heard of these people. How did you know? Like, what was that one? Reynolds.
Oh, Hamilton, Joe, Frank, and Reynolds.
Hamilton, Joe, Frank, and Reynolds.
No, I wouldn't know that one.
And the song's on for like 10 seconds. She goes, Hamilton. Okay. Never even heard of this band.
That's so funny.
But
it's great. Like, I'm the same way. Like, just that knowledge, you just don't ever lose the bands. So,
but at the same time, I'm the annoying guy who every movie we watch, every TV show we watch, I'm like, oh, I know that guy. Hey, that's Bob. Oh, there's Dave. Hey, look back there. Remember that guy? I worked with that guy on that thing. She goes, can I just watch the show? I don't need to know where they shot it. I don't need to. It's like, oh, you see that stairs there? Okay, right next to that. Remember that thing I did in '96? I told you about. Well, that's where we shot that thing. But if you turn the camera around, you can see that. And she's
like, I'm no.
No, I don't want to hear it.
I just want to watch the show.
She puts on the subtitles so that she can at least read it, so that if I start talking, she'll still know what's happening, but she can read the subtitles. And I'm the worst. I have to put the subtitles on, because I can zone out so quickly. And she'll say, did you see what just happened? What? Oh, I'm sorry. All of a sudden, I will zone in on the red light in the corner on the TV where the power light is on. And before you know it, I've been staring at the red light for 5 minutes.
Yeah, you just get completely drawn.
I get lost in thought about something else.
Well, fun fact, because I told you I rented the Scooby-Doo too, so that I could refresh it, because I had seen it years ago, and I'm like, I want to watch it again. And same thing, we put subtitles on everything, because my husband goes to bed usually. Tonight he's getting up at midnight, so he went to bed earlier. But so I'm like, okay, we'll put the subtitles on, because it's like when everybody's talking, I couldn't hear it, but then it's like scary part, it's like so loud. So I'm like, okay, there's no subtitles if you run it on Prime.
Really?
And I'm like, I have never heard of I even got my kid to try it. It's not just because I'm technologically challenged. I was like, you put the subtitles on it. It's like, I've never seen this before. So I was just like, come on now. So I'm like constantly volume up, volume down. Like, I want to hear what they're saying. Oh, scary part. Turn it down. Turn it down.
And the music is always way too loud. And the dialogue is always buried under it.
Yep. And I have a hearing impairment in my left ear, so I can't hear anyway. And I'm just like, and I can't read Scooby's lips,
And well, talking about that, here's the weird thing. Neil Fanning was the actor who did the voice of Scooby in the 2 live-action Scooby-Doo films. When they shot the first one, they shot it in Australia, and they put out a call for someone to come on set to be able to do the voice on set, so they could have almost like a stand-in, but instead of a stand-in, it's just someone that says the lines on set, and then they'll get someone later to do the voiceover in the film.
Right.
But they ended up falling in love with the way he did Scooby so much that he ended up getting the job of the voice of Scooby. So he ended up coming here when we shot the second Scooby in Vancouver. He ended up coming along, and so he would be on set with a microphone doing the voice doing the lines, and they had a big model, like a full size model version of Scooby, so that you could see size wise what he would look like on set if he was here, so that you can sort of like get a feel for the size of him, so you know where to look and everything. And then they would take him, and also they would use that for light samples for the visual effects, because they'd put the big dummy Scooby on set, and then they would film a little bit of it, and then you could see how the light hit the fur and everything. So they would have that to compare. But once they took him away, then they would just say, okay, where he was sitting, he's going to be there. So whenever he's talking, this is where Scooby is. Look in that area. And sometimes they'd have like a tennis ball, a green tennis ball at the end of a green stick or something that they could erase later. But so you knew where Scooby was. The problem was, as soon as we do the scene and Matthew's acting and I'm acting, next thing you know, you hear Scooby's voice, but it's on the speaker at the other side of the studio.
So y'all go.
So on take after take of Minor 49er going, and the director going, Ernst,
he's not there.
Look at the actor in front of you. Oh, okay. Sorry. And as soon as you say the next line,
you're just reacting. That's where the sound's coming from.
That's where it's coming from. Yeah.
Put the speaker in the tennis ball.
But it was so cool having the actor on set doing the voice. So like you still had the Scooby voice on set, because without Scooby, it would throw you. And it's funny when you see pictures, promotional pictures from Scooby-Doo 2 that were shot on set that they put out for, because there was like a board game, that Scooby-Doo 2 board game. There was a video game. Then there was a promotion with Burger King. And so all this stuff has to get done in pre-production or as soon as possible. So they get all this stuff out. Same with the different books. There's a Scooby-Doo Learner. There's all these different books that you can get, the kids' books and everything. All those pictures, so many of them, there's no Scooby, because think about it. They took the pictures on set. The photographer takes the picture. They send the thing off. So now you look at the thing and there's a picture of Minor 49er looking all scary. And there's a picture of Matthew looking up at me and he's all scary. And
it's like, where's Scooby?
You're like, where's Scooby? Oh, that's right. This is an actual picture from set. So many of the kids' books that you get out there, they don't even have Scooby in the photos. Like they had trading cards that were released, and I had to sign. And Minor 49er had a trading card. There was 1,000 of them. I'll tell you, you don't know how big a number like 1,000 is until you have to sign 1,000 cards. Oh my God, that was like 3 hours. I was at my agent's for 3 hours.
I had to show Scooby.
Yeah, it's
Scooby Doom. I was having a brain burp there for a second. So he's in here to bring it back to Johnny, and also to bring everything back around when you were saying about how they liked his voice, so he became the voice of Scooby. Did you know that in I Would Do Anything for Love by Meatloaf,
yes,
the woman's voice is Mrs. Loud from Paradise by the Dashboard Light, that they were only going to use as a stand-in voice, but then they fell in love with her version. So,
but then the woman in the video
is not
was
her.
just a model, and she was given a recording contract. By the strength of that, isn't that right?
She had a good set of lungs.
The woman in the the woman in the video, Mrs. Loud did the voice.
Oh, yes.
The woman in the video was just a model.
Yes.
But you said that she was given, they were going to give her a recording contract off of the strength of that video.
Yes.
And basically she had to say, I'm not singing. I'm just a model. I didn't, because just like with the video for all the stuff from Bat Out of Hell, the person in the video is lip syncing because Ellen Foley did the voice.
And she never wanted to be on video.
No, she never wanted to be any. She was just basically helping him out in the recording studio because she was a
I
Broadway
love her
singer.
voice. Yeah.
And so when the woman is doing all, what's that? Oh, she was dating Jim Steinman. That's what it was.
Oh, that makes sense.
See, it wasn't just that my wife happened to be on the Meatloaf fan club. She ended up becoming like a super fan. I have so many. I thought Meatloaf had like 2 albums, and then I met her, and now I have an entire wall of Meatloaf music that I didn't even know existed, like 5-6 albums that he released in Europe that I didn't even know existed. And we have an entire shelf of Meatloaf movies because people don't realize how many. I mean, his entire career was not just music. He acted the entire time too.
Yep. And he coached softball. Fun fact.
And
his daughter Pearl is married to the guy from Anthrax.
Really?
At least they were, yeah. Because I'm like, can you imagine who's your father-in-law? Meatloaf? Like, that's kind of.
And isn't Pearl his stepdaughter?
Pearl is his stepdaughter.
Yes, Pearl is a stepdaughter.
That I did not know. That's cool.
And his other daughter is she looks like Meatloaf. What's her, Amanda? Ooh, I knew something.
Yay!
Sorry.
Amanda Loaf.
Amanda Loaf. Would you see? My wife says, take your victories where you can get them.
Exactly. Yeah, you claim that shit. That's mine. I got it.
And just so you know, I'm not standing up because I'm in my underwear, and she's not showing up on camera because she's in her nightgown.
Oh, okay. I was wondering why she wasn't coming on to say hi, but I didn't want to
What's that?
Stop talking about being in your underwear.
Oh, she said, stop talking about being in your underwear. It's too late.
It's all right. You're comfortable.
Half the pictures of me on the internet are of me in my underwear.
There you go. You've made a lot of money being in your underwear.
When I had my website, which I don't have a website now, ever since Facebook and ever since social media, I stopped having websites because it was like they've already got all the software there. I can just drop photos in. I don't have to design my own website.
Right.
But I just forgot where I was going. Where was I going?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Are there pictures of your underwear? That's what.
Yeah. So my wife, being the web designer, the webmaster, she would get all the emails from. So she would get emails like this one guy named Sydney in Sao Paulo, Brazil, would keep sending emails requesting nude photos of me, and my wife would remind him that, hi, just wanted you to know that this is Ernst's wife that you're writing, and just wanted you to know that that's who you're speaking with. Oh, I'm so excited! I'm so privileged to get the chance to meet you. So do you have any naked photos of Ernst? And there, at one point, I got an email from, it was called NECA. NECCA, and it was the New England Chub Chasers Association, and they wanted me to be the keynote speaker at their summer convention, and it was NECA, fat gay man and the fat man we love, or something like that.
Wow. Okay.
Oh no, that's right. Sorry, I can't keep track. Is that a different
organization?
I can't keep track of all this lunacy. There was another website called Whale Riders. And it was the same thing. And I beat out George Wendt. They had a list of the 10 fat men that we'd most like to have sex with. And it was me and Norm. And I thought, boy. And here's what killed me. On this website, somebody had taken the time to Photoshop my picture from 13 Ghosts and taken the time to Photoshop all the puke off my cheeks, taken the puke off my chin, taken the puke off my chest. So somebody really wanted to see me clean.
Yeah. They should have come to the shower in the club.
Exactly. Oh my God. That was an image that I'll never forget, that I don't think that janitor will ever forget.
No, he's telling stories now. He's
poor little.
Guess who I got to see naked?
Little
Take
East
that
Indian,
man in San Paulo.
Man with his bucket. His whole life just flashed before his eyes. He didn't know what he was seeing there.
See, if he knew, he could have taken a picture and sold it to that guy from South America or whatever.
Oh, there you go. But thankfully, that was before everybody had a camera in their pocket.
Oh yeah, I'm glad I retired. It's on this side. I'm glad I retired before the camera phone era, because that would have been.
I remember there was one guy that they used to have the thing. I don't know what were clubs in the States, but up here they used to have what they called Guiney Row, which was there was right next to the stage. you would have a little ledge that went around the stage, and you could sit there and drink your beer, and you could be right there in front of the. They called it Guiney Row
For your
because you got
vagina.
yeah,
Yeah.
and real way. My wife is way too close. Yes.
Yeah.
Because it was like an exam because
Yeah.
that's how close you are, and in up here, it's 100% nudity. So, and so I see one guy sitting there. He's got his hand on his beer, and he's watching the dancer, and I can clearly see that his other hand is under the little shelf, under the little countertop. And I can
Mr.
see his
Freebird.
shoulder doing this from where I'm sitting in my DJ booth. And I walk over to the guy and I go, "Hey, none of that. We don't do that in here. Let's go." And he says, "Well, can I at least finish?" And I went, "Oh, you're a pig." And he goes, "No, my beer."
That's hilarious.
So I let him finish his beer. We get to the door, and as I'm opening the door, he reaches out with his right hand and goes, "Thanks for being a good guy, man." I was like, "I ain't touching that hand. Sorry,
Nope,
get out of
nope,
here." But you've probably seen all that and more.
Yeah, we had a guy we used to call Freebird because of that. Every time he come in, I'm like, "You want to hear some Skinner?" Because I just like point at him and yell Freebird, and he just didn't care. So
It's an interesting life.
it definitely is. Well, I want to hear what you have on the horizon. What's coming up with you?
Well, a friend of mine, like I was saying earlier about, getting to know people in the business and treating everyone like a human being and everyone with dignity, and they remember you. And I worked on a film where the director of photography and I hit it off, and they had worked on another film as a camera assistant, and now it was time. They were producing a film, and a friend of theirs was directing the film, and they called me and said, "We'd be honored if you'd come do a cameo in the film," because they're huge horror fans, huge 13 Ghosts fans, and the thought of having the great child in their film, just the director was so excited. Her name's Dion Copland, and the film is called Riding Shotgun, and it's a real grindhouse type film. They shot it on actual 16 millimeter film, so it has the grain already. It really feels like
That's awesome.
They did one called Cold Wind Blowing, and that's on DVD, and that was more of like a horror. This is more of a action thriller, guns and blood kind of action type film. And my little cameo is I'm the truck driver, the friendly truck driver at the corner store who
Don't give too much away.
basically offers the guy a ride.
Okay.
And leave it at that. But
Gotcha.
that's called riding shotgun, which is a play on those words. It means something actual to the film. And I have the music video that I did for Melody Hoare with Mello. She's the singer on the song. That's on my Facebook page. You can see that. That's all over all on Spotify. The music's on all the different channels, and then the videos on YouTube and what have you. And other than that, I'm continuing to sell. I can't go to every convention, but I can have people come to me. And
Awesome.
so I've been getting in touch with people through the different horror groups and letting them know that 13 Ghosts, Scooby-Doo, Trick or Treat, and that's a fun film for people to realize that, my character in that is basically as an Easter egg. It's basically a little cameo playing off of the fact that I was the great child in 13 Ghosts. And
Right.
here I play the giant baby, which for anybody who knows who the great child is, it's like a little nudge, nudge, wink, wink, because basically I play
Cinema.
exactly. I play Anna Paquin's blind date, and her sister, Lauren Lee Smith, is on the phone with Anna Paquin, and she says, "So did you find someone for me?" She goes, "I did." And she says, "Is he young?" And then they cut to me dressed as the baby, like,
That is amazing. I love
And
that.
that's it. It's just a little, like I said, just a little cameo, but it's a nice little Easter egg moment for horror fans who know that, the great child is also the giant baby.
That's so
And
cool.
so I have a lot of people wanting autographs for that because of that. And also I take in mail-ins now. So anybody wants different posters from 13 Ghosts, whatever, they can send that. I have an address that's everything's on my Facebook page. If you just go there, C Harth, the first thing at the top, pinned to the top, is all this information. You can see all the photos I have available. It's $30. Nothing is ever more than $30, and that's includes the shipping on these photos.
Is that
And
US or is that
I was
Canadian?
just going to say that's
honest
Canadian.
question. Yeah. Okay.
So really, it's more like 22 something. So
Right.
really, I'm basically giving it to you for free.
I was going to say that's actually really reasonable.
Not to make light, but I've actually had people scold me. That's a little harsh, but people give me tips and say, I gave you some more money because you're undercharging.
Yeah. Yep. It's because they care about you. They're
like, I'm not charging a lot so that people can get the photos and the prints and stuff signed by me.
Yeah, because shipping, especially internationally, is a lot. So
yeah, so anywhere outside of North America, it's $10. So England, Australia, what have you, it's $10 shipping. But anywhere in North America, shipping's free. So that's what I'm doing now. I don't have anything else on the go. Ever since COVID, everything switched over to self-tape auditions. And when you're 6'6", 400 pounds, I make an impression coming in the room, walking in the room to audition. And that is sort of lost when you're putting yourself on tape because, look, now I'm just a head in a box.
Right. In your underwear.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's my secret. Nobody needs to know that. But in almost every self-tape audition, I'm in my underwear. So
you need a Fruit of the Loom commercial or something. Like, you need to have your own line of Ernst undies. Like, I can see this. You can market it with, your characters. They can be like underoos, but for grown-ups.
Exactly.
I'm telling you, this is your next big thing.
But so I haven't been. The last thing I did was Crawl Space, which was 2 years ago, and that was I was a lead in that. That was a big feature for Paramount Plus, and it was basically me and Henry Thomas. So if you want to see E.T. Elliot from E.T. get beat up by the great child, check out Crawl Space on Paramount, because that was the last big thing I did, and ever since then. I've just been waiting. I had a thing, American Dreamer is still out there with Peter Dinklage. Because I'm not above a good sight gag. And if somebody wants to put me in a scene with Peter Dinklage, and when you see the scene, you'll see how much funnier it is, because you don't see my face in the whole scene. Because remember how when we were kids, we'd watch the Peanuts cartoons, Charlie Brown and what have you,
and all the adults,
and all the adults were basically knees and legs in the background because everything was shot at the kids' point of view.
So it's shot at
the scene with me and Peter Dinklage is shot from his point of view, so you only see him and my knees and my legs. You see the back of my head and my butt when I walk away from camera.
Right.
But I think I auditioned for a different role, and I like to think that someone said, you know what would be funny?
Yes.
Put him and Peter in the same scene. And so, it was a very quick scene. Is I'm basically buying his car from him for my son who wants his own car.
Okay.
And so it's like a 2-minute scene, but so that's out there. American Dreamer, Shirley MacLaine it's basically him and Shirley MacLaine. He finds a deal in the newspaper that this big mansion, he can have this mansion for almost nothing, but the lady that lives in it comes with it. And he basically has to live there with her until she dies. And she's not close to dying.
She's Shirley MacLaine, so she's going to come back anyway.
Right, exactly. And again, and again, and,
and
again.
again.
Yeah, so that's the premise of that film, and that was based on an episode of American Life podcast. There was a story about some guy who moved into an apartment with a woman that lived in it, and they turned that into a movie with Peter Dinklage. So I got that out there. I got the Crawl Space, and other than this one film that I just did and this music video, I have another music video coming out soon. It's funny, I've done more music videos than anything in the last 3 years.
And that's funny because they're not like, it's not the MTV age anymore.
No,
so.
I mean, I don't know where YouTube, I guess, is where videos get seen now.
Yeah, or like TikTok will send you to YouTube. Maybe you get a little clip on TikTok and then.
Back 20 years ago, I did a cool one for more than 20 years, 30 almost, for a band called Our Lady Peace.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of them.
It was a band, the song was called Superman's Dead, and it was all a bunch of circus freaks, and I played like the circus strongman, and so just another one of my horror characters, but that's out there somewhere on the internet. But
See,
no,
that's another character for your underoos. I'm telling you.
I think Johnny and I are going to have to.
You and Johnny can do a horror adorable set and a realistic set. Your wife can make the website. I see this.
And
this
his wife can make the underwear. Bing, bing, bang, boom. There.
Just have people buy my book. Just say, just buy
there you
this
go.
book.
With each book, you get a pair of underwear.
You can
read about taking them off, and then you can put them on at the end.
Exactly. It's so silly it would work.
Everything I need to know, I learned in Go-Go.
Correct. How a preacher's daughter pole danced her way to finding her true self.
Oh, hey, I started off working as doing 5-day Bible camps for Child Evangelism Fellowship, and ended up being a drug dealer for a bodyguard for drug dealers, and working in a strip club. So
you never know what turns life's going to take.
Exactly.
That's so great.
No, I've had fun tonight. Thank you.
I did too. This has been so. I could talk to you for another 2 hours, but Johnny's going to be like, "We got to edit this. Would you stop it?" So, yeah. Thank you so much, and I want to show Johnny's book again.
It's so nice, and every page is so colorful, and the big, bright, bold colors. I mean, there's so much creativity in that book. There's so much artwork, and all the different parodies of all the different horror characters, and Iron Man and Captain America, all that stuff.
Yep, it's so great, and then the whole Scooby-Doo and oh gosh, Zombie Bear. There's just I get lost in it because there's so much to look at, and it's such a good quality book too. It's not like so. Please get your copy here. You can check out Horror Adorables. You can get a T-shirt too, like Ernst has with the different characters. You can even get him. So, thank you so much, and I can't wait to keep in touch on Facebook. And,
we're friends now.
Yes, we are. And I will see you over there.
Okay, thanks.